Hi, this is Tom. Today we're going to talk about dropping the MGB oil pan to add a new gasket, a filter, and maybe some oil. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Well, first you got to raise the car off the ground. I like to use 2 floor jacks. Alternate elevating the car, front and rear. Raise the car higher than your big belly, higher than a 5-gallon pail, so you can get under it, drain the pan, and hit the bucket. Now, here's a good idea. Let the engine oil cool before you start. With the car elevated, well, it's easy to crawl under to the drain plug. There's the plug there. Easy to see, easy to get at, but often it's on really tight, hard to break free. Don't use this crescent wrench. It is a knuckle buster. It just slips off too easily. Go get your socket wrenches. The 3/4 inch socket, that's the one that fits this plug. And you want to use a rugged handle. Don't use a ratchet. Better yet, I use this electric impact wrench. Of course, it has a 1/2 inch drive, but you can use a reducer to fit your 3/8 sockets. It spins it free so rapidly. Then take your fingers and unscrew the plug fully. You're going to be glad you let that oil cool. Well, that was the easy part. Now comes the hard part. I like to secure the pan so it doesn't fall or wiggle when I loosen the bolts. A floor jack and a block of wood, just up it a little bit just to pinch the pan. Bolts, they're going to withdraw so much easier, and the pan stays controlled. It remains still. You'll use this same trick during reassembly. But now, when removing the bolts, it's best to start with those difficult ones, the ones that are hard to get at. A 7/16 socket, ratchet, and an extension, that's all you need to withdraw most of the perimeter bolts holding the pan up there in place. Yeah, all 19 of them. But the 5 forward bolts are really a pain. The forward corner ones, they're more accessible if you lay under the car and reach forward. You got better access that way. The 3 across the front, man, they're ridiculous. You need some small wrenches and nimble fingers. Most of your wrenches, the open ends, the closed ends, the adjustables, they just won't work. You need these small 1/4 inch drive socket wrenches. One I have is a ratchet. That's hard to get on and off on with limited access. So there, sometimes you got to use this swivel head handle. That allows a little more movement. Remember how difficult this is, because it gets worse when you try to put them back in. Now when you remove these bolts, place them in a little jar of gasoline, so you can shake it, soak it, rinse the goodies off the threads. Oh, they're going to be so much easier to get started when you reinstall them. Well, when you got the pan free, you might as well take it to the workbench and wipe it all down. It'd be a good time to clean it thoroughly, maybe spray paint it, make it look good before you put it back on. Putting the gasket on, well, that's just like putting on that valve cover gasket. All you need is a nice smooth skim coat all over the pan surface and the gasket. I like to double them up. Use 2. Yeah, they cost $3.95 a piece. Come on. Apply some mastic to every bonding surface and stick it securely to the pan. Then be sure to put a similar nice smooth skim coat on the engine block. It'd be nice to keep the mastic from going into the holes. To help align the pan, the gasket, and the holes in the engine block, I like to use these wooden dowels as locator pins. You only need a couple of them. Just stick them in the engine holes. Here's what I do. I sharpen the ends with a little pencil sharpener, make them tapered. Then they go in the holes easier. You can just push them in, pinch them up there, and they hang down, so when you elevate the pan, it finds its way. With the pan up in position and it's located with those dowels, you can grab your floor jack and take a block of wood and pinch that pan in position. Hold it there so you can go around. You want to get to the front and get at those problem places. You remember all the frustration you had with your fingers trying to get at those bolts. Well, it's going to be even more difficult when you try to put them in. You got to have nimble fingers, like I said. You got to feed those screws up in there and just get the thread started. And then you're going to have to grab those 1/4 inch drive wrenches we talked about. Yeah, and you're going to do a lot of turning with them. It seems to take forever. Not only are they inaccessible, but they're kind of buried in a recessed perimeter groove around the pan, so a lot of other wrenches just can't get on them. And you don't want to tighten them all the way, you just want to slug them up before you advance to the other locations. If you discover that sometimes the holes in the pan and the gasket don't line up with the black, maybe the bolt doesn't go up there too easily, grab one of those tapered wooden dowels again, plunge it in there, wiggle it around. It may take time, but it's a lot easier to get all the bolts started first. At least get them in position before you start really wrenching them down. Because when you pinch like that, things creep. The gasket slides a little bit. Then you have big trouble getting the bolt through there. Even the mastic instructions on the tubes, they give you a hint not to tighten the bolts right away. Just go around and slug them all up and then come back later and give them a final turn, maybe a quarter of a turn or so. When you're done, don't be in a hurry to put that oil in. Let all that stuff cure for a while. So you got some time, you might as well replace the oil filter, right? You got one of these rubber wrenches, they really work great. After you've rested a while and you let everything cure, it's going to take about 5 quarts of multigrade 2050 weight for the engine and the filter. But now you've got the car elevated and your tools handy. It's a good time to drain the transmission as well. Well, the drain plug is right there in front of your face. But the filler plug, that's way near the top of the transmission. Hard to get at. Here's what I do. I put a piece of flexible tubing onto one of these extended funnels. That way I can feed the funnel from the engine compartment right down through the side of the black, and I got the hose sticking in the transmission. The 1980 MGB transmissions take about 4.5 pints of the same multigrade engine oil, the 2050, but my overdrive transmission, that takes 5.5 pints. It's a little warmer all the time down here in Florida, so I like to add a little mixture of a heavier lubricant, just to keep things sliding nicely. Well, about now, I'm tired of working on the car. I think I'll go fishing or surfing the net or something else. I'll come back, start the car, crawl under, and I won't see any leaks. Yep, I'll be ready for the road. See you later.